There was no fighting in
Because I
here,
think
just
John
go
told
over.
Craig that too.
Oh, okay. I don't know what they said.
And if he wants a referral.
Got nervous. I got the shivers. Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of Monday, November 27th. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to the acceptance of the minutes for the meeting of November 13th.
Motion to approve the minutes from the 13th.
Second.
All those in favor? That's a vote. Were you not here? You are abstaining, yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, you didn't put your hand up because, nothing under audience, we'll move to reports. For financial reports, we have Rockland High School student activities, Rogers Middle School student activities, and the cafe.
3 motions to approve.
3 seconds.
All those in favor? And then we have the monthly reports for September and October. For arts, Ms. Thompson; athletic, Mr. Kimball; computer technology, Mr. Wells; Dean, Mr. Damon; English 9 through 12, Ms. Donovan; foreign language, Mrs. Tabarez, middle school, Mrs. Harris; middle school, Mr. Griffin; phys ed, Ms. Newcomb; consumer science, Ms. Newcomb; music, Mr. Piazza; radio TV station, Ms. Breeden; science, Mr. Canzio; social studies, Mr. McAllister; and daycare, Mrs. Tate.
15 motions to approve.
15 seconds.
All those in favor? That's a vote. Now, we're going to go a little out of line with the agenda tonight. We have some very important people in the audience. We're going to start with our 8th grade Project 351 ambassador, presented by Mrs. Schipper, principal of Rogers Middle School. Good evening.
Thank you so much for having us here. I'm here tonight to introduce to you the Project 351 ambassador that's been chosen by Rogers Middle School this year. Just a little reminder for what the criteria is for Project 351, which is selected each year by each district in the Commonwealth. That's why there are 351. That's why that, so there are 350 others besides Rockland. And they give us a list of criteria, so I'd just like to read from this a little bit. Project 351 celebrates quiet leaders and unsung heroes who may not be recognized in other leadership forums. We seek aspiring change makers who demonstrate kindness, compassion, and respect for others, for diverse lived experiences, identities, and perspectives. Candidates are expected to be strong leaders. They are expected to demonstrate a strong work ethic. They are expected to work independently, have strong leadership potential, and I could go on and on, but I'll keep it brief. So we throw this out to the teachers and ask for recommendations, and recommended this year for Rogers Middle School Project 351 ambassador is Talia DaCosta. Talia is a very strong student, all A's. She is active in chorus, and band, and drama, and went very far in the spelling bee this year, and art club. So Talia is a fantastic young lady, and she has been selected. So I'd like to present her with a certificate.
Welcome, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you're freaking out because you're at the school committee. I just want to say we're all moms here, so you don't need to. We're just normal people sitting here on the other side of this table. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm really into music, and I like listening to music and singing, and that's mostly why I like to do theater, and I like doing chorus and band, because I'm really passionate about music.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Very exciting. And you must be creative because you're doing all of those arts things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have an idea of what your project's going to be?
Not at the moment. I want to know a little more before I start planning what it's going to be.
Great. Makes sense.
It does. Any questions?
I was just going to say, I think a lot of times we meet students that are selected that are really, really academically gifted as you are, but not often do we get someone who is both academically gifted and creative and talented on that whole other side of the brain. So it's very exciting to see you selected. And also I really look forward to hearing what your project is, because I bet it'll be super creative and something out of the box. So wishing you all the best. Let us know how we can support you, but congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anything? No? So certainly let us know when you do figure it out. We'll certainly help out any way we can, okay? All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our travel club with the Galapagos Islands 2026 trip presentation with Ms. Walsh. Hi.
Hi, everybody. I also wanted to introduce, before I get started, this is Emily Whipple from EF Tours. She's my new tour consultant that I've been working with on planning this trip. So she'll be definitely available to answer any questions as well.
Great. Thank you.
I think mostly everyone has gone through one of my presentations before to pitch a new trip, but basically we work with EF Tours, who we've worked with since planning our 2013 trip to Spain, and we've traveled with ever since. They're headquartered in Boston, one of their locations, and we've worked really closely over the years to make sure our students get the best possible trip under the safest conditions and also have it be academically minded. After many requests from students, we chose for 2026 Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands. They've heard some of my stories. I went with EF in 2018 to the Galapagos, and it was unbelievable, like a whole other planet, nowhere I've ever been before. We hadn't done any Latin American trips until Belize in 2022. We're going to Costa Rica in April this year. I think I saw a different side of the tours when we did Belize, and I'm hoping for the same in these future ones. Students get to use their Spanish language if they've taken those classes here. It's a very different, adventurous, outdoorsy kind of trip than our traditional Europe trips that we will still continue to do and love. There's some amazing once-in-a-lifetime experiences going to the Galapagos. They've really limited their environmental policies so that some days certain islands are closed, but EF has a backup plan for that, so we would always get to go to a different island. In addition to our tour director, who's with us 24/7 on the tour, there's also local guides in the Galapagos that you are not allowed to step foot onto an island without a marine biologist. So they'll be traveling with us. The students will learn so much from them. My chaperones that are science teachers can't wait for this trip. It's definitely a bucket list for teachers as well as students. We go to Ecuador and then take a short trip to the Galapagos from the mainland, so 2 experiences within South America for them. And some amazing science, animal encounters. Getting to stand on the equator is kind of a big one for the photo opportunities. But just learning about a place that is so isolated and so historic in terms of the developments that were made there and discoveries by Darwin and everything that connects to their science curriculum is a little bit different from some of our tourism-based trips in Europe, which are academic in a different way, but some of the students are really excited about the hands-on opportunities, snorkeling, seeing the tortoises, seeing all the other animals and wildlife, and just having the adventure of a lifetime, for sure.
I agree. Do we have any questions?
What are the accommodations like on the Galapagos Islands?
So we mostly don't stay on the islands. We will, obviously, for those few days we're there. Only some islands are inhabited. So the rest of them, you do day trips or short half-day excursions. We stayed on a boat when I went in 2018. That will not be happening with the students. We'll be at hotels on some of the inhabited islands where the airports are as well. So regular hotels, but just a lot of boat trips and ferry trips from island to island.
Awesome.
Anything? What are some emergency, I know this is sort of our plug we always ask, because I feel like that's the questions that we need to think of, being responsible for the students that you're taking, and I know you know this drill. What, are there hospitals, what happens if something happens? Tell me about what you would do, or how you would handle it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you have specifics that you want to add, but in general, our tour director always has all of the emergency lines, all the contacts they need to have for hospitals, emergency services, to get us from one place to another transportation-wise. All of the marine biologists we travel are certified in basic first aid and things that they would need to know for the average kind of situations they
Right.
have on the islands. I mean, someone could fall down walking on a hike and need small amounts of first aid.
Right.
But yes, I believe there's at least one hospital on the main island that we're flying into. But I could look into specifics if you need to know more about that. But anything from EF's point of view?
Nothing that you didn't already cover. We do have a 24/7 emergency response team, so anywhere in the world, you know, we have over 600 offices in 50 countries, and so any destination that you travel to, students will actually get a wristband with the number, and they can call. Parents and family members at home can also call that number if they are concerned about something going on. So we always have that support for people.
And I think this is a trip where they'll be with us almost all of the time. It's not like
not a lot of free
lunchtime
time.
in London where you go off for an hour and go with your friends in small groups. They're going to be with us all the time. There's nowhere else to go. So that's great from the chaperone perspective, is we'll all be together and have our other team of adults that are based in Ecuador and the Galapagos to help us as well.
Okay. And I know you usually have your signups are sort of like first come, first serve. Will you guide this more towards the kids that may be interested in marine biology and things like that, those sciences?
Yeah, I definitely have our science teachers on board. Ms. DeCanzio is the department chair, and she's my #1 chaperone at this point in our travel club career, and she's been dying for this one, and she's hyping it up in her classes. Miss Layton, who teaches animal behavior and some other classes related to this, as well as biology. We like to make it known to the whole school for sure and give everyone the opportunity, and we're sort of back to our normal schedule of planning this far out, 2.5 years to 3 years,
Right.
which got interrupted with COVID for sure.
Right.
So we're hoping anyone who wants to do this can sign up early, afford it over the course of many months, and fundraise if they would like to.
All right. And then I know I always ask this too, if there's any male students on, you will have a male chaperone, if possible.
We can, if that is a requirement of the
If
school
that's what
committee.
they're asking. Well, I don't necessarily know if we need to require it. I guess if the parents are saying that's how they would feel more comfortable, then that's something that I think I would lean on. Is anyone else saying the same?
I mean, we've done several trips without a male chaperone.
Right.
Most of those times, or all of those times, it was a male tour director, so we had
So you
a
had
male
a male
present.
there, okay.
I think, depending on what situations we're in with different day guides and things like that, there are definitely males around. I haven't had a parent tell me specifically that we've traveled with before or signed up now that they would like a male
Okay.
chaperone, but absolutely we could address it.
If it came up.
If it came up, for sure.
Right. I just want to make sure everyone sort of feels comfortable. When you're that far away, I sort of want it to cover all bases.
Yeah.
So, all right. Any other questions? Go ahead, Melissa.
Students' health insurance, so if there's a medical emergency, is it health insurance provided through this trip, or is it their parents' health insurance, or how does that work?
It's a great question. That's probably sort of a combo question for us. I require the global travel protection, which is an option for EF, but I require it for every traveler, chaperone, and student. It's for minor things like lost luggage, but also medical coverage. I think in some circumstances, depending on what country you're in and free healthcare and things like that, they might have to pay a copay and then get reimbursed by their insurance at home. But any big medical situation, EF's insurance covers for sure.
Great.
And that's that $190?
Yes.
Okay. Is that, okay, includes?
They also have the option of purchasing, this is individual families can purchase a more expensive insurance at this point, which was developed during COVID, and that's less for medical reasons or lost luggage and those kind of travel insurance, but more for if they decide they can't go or something comes up between now and the day before, they can cancel and just lose the insurance and deposit versus a much greater amount that would have happened before.
Right.
So everyone's set on the 190, but then they can increase it to the other one if they choose.
All right.
What is the max number of students? I know before, and a lot of the other ones, it was bus-related, so obviously you'll be doing a lot of stuff by boat, so,
Yes.
And will you be with other schools during that time?
Depending on our numbers, if we can fill what they call a full group, then we wouldn't have other schools. It is boat and hotel and bus related in the Galapagos, I think a few different factors. But I know teachers who have taken 2 busfuls, 60-plus students to the Galapagos, so it's definitely not something I'm concerned about that we would fill up.
And a minimum number in order to run the trip?
Yes, 12 for us to have myself and another chaperone.
And do we have anybody signed up yet?
One person is on a wait list because I told her she couldn't officially sign up until I went to you guys tonight. She is one of my main instigators for this. She's ready, and she's been ready to go since I finally had the website done. I said, you can go on, but it's not official until school committee approves it. So she'll be our first one, very excited. And then if all goes well tonight, we'll have a meeting next week for parents and students.
Anything else? No. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the travel club plan for 2026.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
you.
Kristen, before you go.
Yes.
Just year after year after year, you come up and you present these amazing opportunities for our kids, and I'm not sure if everyone realizes that how much of your time you give to this. And these trips mean a lot to a lot of kids, and I really appreciate your time and your passion and the opportunities that you're creating for Rockland students. So thank you.
Pleasure is mine. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that, but
Well,
I
it's-
get just as much out of it for my traveling around the world, for
Yeah.
seeing it through their eyes. We had a great time in Italy last year. Hope was
Yeah.
there. And I look forward to this as one of the highlights of every year, and I'm so excited Rockland has been so supportive of these opportunities for the
Yeah.
students.
But some go home for their spring break and they relax, and you go travel around the world with large groups of children. So we, our
not for
hats,
everyone.
my hat is off to you. And
So when she's tired
that's
during
right,
the week after
exactly.
vacation, we have
No,
to give her grace.
But
No,
we appreciate you.
It's great, and they're wonderful. They always step up to the plate and make Rockland proud, and the chaperone teams I have are unbelievable, and the community's always been so supportive. We just had our second Global Ambassador presentation. A student who went to Italy with Hope presented on climate change in Italy, and he did an amazing job, so we'll get our second transcript stamp for him to apply to colleges with that accomplishment. And we're hoping more sign up for science-based projects for the Galapagos or one for Europe in 2025. Costa Rica, it'll be a little tight, but they're absolutely welcome to do one when we have our first meeting. I'm going to introduce that. That's been a great component that helps them with their research skills to get ready for post-high school life. So there's a lot of things we're still working to make Travel Club the best it possibly can be and most valuable for the students, but it's exciting whenever they're excited about it. So when the
Right.
posters are up in the building tomorrow, I'm hoping for a good buzz.
All right.
So, a couple of questions, not in approval of this, but just more
Yeah.
about the program in general. There have been years where we obviously did 2 in a year, we tried to do 3. Are we going back to the 1 a year, sticking with April, just from an appetite perspective?
I think 1 a year is the best possible way to give everyone a chance to do 4 different trips in their 9 through 12 career here. The multiple trips was mostly because of COVID and pushing trips back. Originally, we were going to do every other April when we started this in 2013. And that was a junior-senior trip only. And then when we first did Australia in 2016, we said it's not a full group, we can open it up to freshmen and sophomores. We had a few sophomores, 1 freshman that year. And that was also around the time we started doing an application and a travel club policy that students have to adhere to as a student in this building. And so I think that helps when you're weeding it down from a huge group of interested people to people who are really committed. I hope to never have a wait list again. I hope everyone who wants to travel on any tour can get to do that. And I think with 1 a year, it's pretty likely that that's what will happen.
And how are the destinations proposed? I know you said, someone sort of was championing it or ideas, but how did you choose, obviously, Galapagos?
Yeah, I think for when we started alternating it every other year, or April and then summer, April then summer. It was do the more exotic, further away trips that would require more than the 10 days of April vacation, which is why we did Australia, Japan, both 2 weeks long. But I think Europe is going to be every other year for sure, if not back-to-back years if they're different destinations. I know those are the hot spots that students dream of, France, Italy, Ireland, England, but I also want to give them 4 different opportunities from 9 to 12. So it doesn't always work out perfectly if a freshman comes in and says, but this year's the one I want and I can't go until I'm a junior. Unfortunately, like, we can't make that many trips at a school this size. But I think if we have Latin America, Europe, maybe back to Asia or South Pacific again at some point, then we give them lots of different options and they can find something they're interested in. We know we're going to repeat things. We repeated Italy was our first one. Next year, 2/3 of what we're doing is a repeat, except Paris. We haven't done Paris yet. So adding that into what we knew was popular with Dublin and London was a hit with the students for sure. But I know Italy will come along again. I know London will come up every few years. I would love to get that Australia trip back going that we had to change to Costa Rica, but it's a matter of getting a group that is interested, which is where the student talking to me and the word of mouth and we've done informal surveys with the students, had a meeting and said, where would you like to go? That's why Greece in 2022 happened. That was a student request. Costa Rica, when we changed it, that was discussion of the students who are supposed to go on the trip already. So I'm open to anywhere as long as it's safe. And I think there's some academic value, which to me every place does. But it's just a matter of interest in what I think fits that particular group or time. But yeah, anywhere EF goes, I would go.
Well, and the nice thing about if so many students want Italy, right? Like, you can repeat and we still have dozens more itineraries. So
Yeah.
that's the nice part about being a larger company is that, like, there's probably like 15 different itineraries to Italy alone.
Exactly.
So,
Like, what was your highlight, Hope? Not to put you on the spot. Was it Rome or one of the smaller places? Yeah. So we had never been to those smaller Eastern Coast villages and towns, and we picked it selfishly because I didn't want to do the exact same Italy trip, and I thought it would be great for them to see a big city and the smaller towns, and almost unanimously, they liked Rome. It's a beautiful place and lots to see, but the smaller towns were definitely the hit. So I like to think about that with next year's trip. I looked at the different itineraries EF had and getting to stop in Wales for a day
Right.
on the way from Ireland to England, getting to go to Stratford where Shakespeare was from. Like, those are all little additions that we didn't have last time, even though the countries or the cities are the same. There's so many different ways you can personalize and structure the itineraries themselves.
And I think it's just huge for our kids to get this opportunity. I was talking about it today during the day, and people were like, oh my gosh, that's like what your kids get? I'm like, yeah, if they can fundraise for it and, do the effort to get the money to go, yeah, they can do it. It's not, the affluent kids, it's every kid. Every kid has the same opportunity, and you're helping them try to raise the money. So I think that's the other part, is they're not, out on their own trying to figure it out. There's a team, there's a whole method to your madness of doing this for our kids. So that's huge for them. So.
Well, I think it all also comes from the families, to give you some credit. Parents who are sending their students with me, it's a big leap of faith, but it's also saying, I want this for my student. I want them to have this experience so that whatever they do after Rockland High, they've had this new outlook on the world, on different cultures, on how to be more responsible, how to be more independent, how to communicate better. All of those things. I hope that they all want to travel again after our trips, but I know that they benefit from it no matter how much they do on their own afterwards.
Right. I hope they miss Mom. I mean, she won't.
We'll be hanging out.
And I'll send lots of pictures, I promise.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. We appreciate your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, they already voted.
Yep, we voted. We're good. She's good. All right, now we did this. Building rentals. Sorry.
It's all right. Business.
No, my thing is out of order. Here we go. Okay. Under building rentals for December of 2023, there's 1.5 very full pages of building rentals, which we always love because it just shows that this is how busy our buildings are. And what I always think is cool when I read through who's here, it's sort of all around people using our buildings for all different things, and that's exciting. That's why they're here. It's town-wide, and it just sort of brings it full circle. It's not just about the schools, our schools, so. Any comments or questions on the building rentals? Nope? Okay. Move from there on to old business with a Phelps Elementary School update.
I received an update from Sean Burke today. The demo at Jefferson is complete. The project site still needs to be cleaned up. A water line needs to be replaced, and then, of course, they need to fill in the hole and hydro-seed the field. And then regarding the Phelps building, there is still a punch list of items. Concrete still needs to be poured in a retaining wall, and then also paving still needs to be completed in some spots around Phelps. That's all I have.
All right, and we have that meeting on Thursday this week. So a shout out to all of those, Rich Penny, Sean Burke, all of our team that has been on that committee for years, working to build that school and complete that. So I think that it's sort of like the unsung little hero that just keeps on going. So thanks for all of the hard work for that. And we'll move on to completed fundraisers. We have 3, no, I don't see, it's not completed. Do we have it completed? I don't think I had it. I'm going to move on to not completed until, well, we figure out if we have that.
That's fine.
Okay. Oh, sorry, we're like a hack scene tonight. Under old business, I'm going to go to Jane for the budget, FY24 budget update.
Okay, well, you're stuck with me for starters.
Oh, we're never stuck with you, Joe.
Okay, so first of all, this is just an update, and so I think it's important to frame this as, this is what the budget looks like today. After we did payroll last week, this is the budget as of the 27th of November. We still have positions that are unfilled. We still have kids who may or may not go out of district. There are all kinds of moving parts. So this is what things look like today. But it does sort of tell a story. I'm going to go over things in a very broad manner, and then any questions you may have or anything that Jane wants to add, I certainly want her to be able to add. Let me see. How do I make this? Am I getting a pointy thing? All right, forget it. It's fine. If you look,
There it is.
yeah, but it doesn't want to work on the screen. That's okay. If you look from left to right, you've got the FY23 actuals. So town meeting voted was the 27-9. If you look to the 8/16 date, that was when the school committee approved our budget of 29,806,893. And then the column to the right represents where we are today. And the columns on the far right are really what I kind of want to draw your attention to, because that shows the percentage changes from actual to budgeted to where we are today. The town meeting supplemental number, that is the second column from the top, the 300,000 as of the 27th of November, that was just voted the other day, so I wanted to point that out. Moving down to reoccurring grants, you'll see a 44% increase in our use of reoccurring grants from last year to this year. If you go down one level to the negative 55%, that I want to draw your attention, we've been talking about this, but that is the one-time relief funding that we had received and saved and tried to use as long as humanly possible, but that is disappearing. So that is something that not just Rockland, but every school district is dealing with, how to head off the inevitable cliff that has created for us. But that is something that Jane and the team has been working very, very hard on. And if you go down to circuit breaker, you'll see where that money is made up is in our increased reliance on circuit breaker and our revolving funds, which are both up substantially as far as what we're using to make the budget work this year. Overall, it represents a total revenue increase of 7% from last year to this year. If you go down below, there are three things that I really want to draw your attention to from this presentation. First of all is the salary line under the expense budget. And if you look to the far right, you see 2.35%. Our expenditure on salaries, our primary salary bucket, has only gone up by 2.35%, which is pretty incredible. We cut about $768,000 in staffing at the end of last year, administration, some interventionists, and other things that we cut. But I just want everyone to realize that we're working very, very hard and watching our salaries and our who we're hiring and all of that. And so that's one thing I'd really like to have stick for you. The second thing from this presentation that I think is important is to sort of go back up to that negative 55% using those relief grants, that money is gone, and that's a really important thing for people to understand, that is stressing the budget and stressing schools as we move forward. And then finally, as you move down to subs and expenses and SPED, you'll see 44.4% increase in SPED non-salaries. That is out-of-district placements. And for a total increase at the bottom of this of 6.34%. If we go on to the next slide, we break out the out-of-district special education costs a little bit more for you so that you can see where that comes. It's important to note what we're talking about here because the percentages are so high they sort of freak you out if you're not careful. But we're talking about $3.8 million of a $35 million budget. So it is a relatively small percentage, but it's still very, very important and one that we keep watching because it's so volatile. So out-of-district private costs went up 29%. Our collaborative costs went up 52%. And so for total out-of-district, we went up 36% just for out-of-district. Transportation is quite honestly keeping both Jane and I up at night. The cost of transportation continues to skyrocket. It's quite out of our hands. But I will tell you that within the district, we are extremely creative with how we manage transportation. If a student can be on a bus, they're on a bus. We used to have a lot of students on vans and small transportation that we've moved to buses. It's better for them to be with their peers on buses, and it's less expensive for the district. So we, Noel Novio and Jane work very hard with First Student to manage our routes, to manage loads and how we're using transportation because it is so expensive. But again, the overall costs of special education have really skyrocketed this year particularly. We do know that we will not be hit with a 14% increase next year. It's been identified as a 5% increase for next year, so I was sort of afraid when they hit us with 14% last year that we'd be whacked again, but they set it at 5%, so I think they're being a little more conservative on that front. But that is, that's it. That's the budget update. So I don't know if anyone has questions. I can go back to a slide.
Can you just go into, I know we sitting at this table know what you mean when you're talking of out-of-district transportation. Can you just tell them a little bit more what you mean?
Absolutely.
You mean that they live here in Rockland, but they go to another school, but because they are our students here in Rockland, we pay
We
to
pay
have
for their
them
transportation.
to go to another school.
Correct.
And it can be any school that they need to go to.
Right. It could be for vision impairment. It could be for hearing. It could be social emotional. For any number of reasons.
Okay.
But oftentimes we get students who move in to Rockland, so their new address is now Rockland. They never set foot in a Rockland public school, but the bill just passes from the town they used to live in to us, as long as it's not after October 1st.
Right.
So, yeah, so out of district, those are all the students who are Rockland students, but they don't attend the
Rockland
Rockland Public Schools.
But it's not necessarily, like, we don't bus any kids to, like, the VOTEC or Norfolk and Aggie. Those are all kids that get busing through.
Yeah, they get their own busing.
Correct. That is an entirely different category.
Correct.
That's
That's
not
what I
included.
wanted to
Yeah,
make sure,
yes,
that
it's
was
not-
that.
Right, it's not BC High, it's not
Correct.
Cardinal Spellman or Notre Dame Academy.
Right.
These are out-of-district
Placements.
placements for a very specific reason in 99.9% of the time in conjunction with their IEP.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
James, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just two quick things. Like, on the first slide here, I wanted to just highlight and thank Scott Curtis, the town accountant, because of his work with our town accountant, with Mary Jo Lipson, our accountant. We've been able to really streamline our chart of accounts in line with DESI guidelines. So the former accountant, we just weren't able to get to yes. And therefore, now we're able to show you the prior year actuals appropriately, because we're able to, previously, we didn't break down grants by salary, expense, et cetera. They
Right.
weren't the same function codes. The function codes of the grants and the revolving didn't match the function codes for the general fund. Now they do, so we can give you an aggregate of each of the categories. And Scott and Mary Jo put an awful lot of work into doing that, so I'd just like to thank them. And then just to reiterate that this is a picture at a point of time. It's not, the reality, it's not that it's not the reality, it is not necessarily a projection at this point. We're only 6 payrolls in.
Right. It could
We have many
change
more to
tomorrow.
go. And just one other highlight, other than, I just was doing this math after the slide, to just highlight that we do have another area that we're watching. And that is our homeless and our foster care kiddos from Rockland. This has nothing to do with the shelter or the Comfort Inn. But it is a sign of the times that we're in. And last year, this year, we budgeted $40,000 in foster care and $57,000 in McKinney-Vento homeless. And that was based on last year's actuals. And we're looking at $54,000 and $118 respectively, for a projected deficit of $172,000 in homeless and in foster care families. So that's a part of what's going on, but so in addition to those sped costs, these costs too are rising. And it's not just, we're not alone in Rockland. That is really something that's going on throughout the industry.
Yeah, and just also to point out, if you look at the graph and you go to the bottom, as of August 16th, we were projecting a almost $566,000 deficit. A lot of work has gone into balancing this year's budget, and I also want to thank again the town for their support, the $300,000 for unanticipated special education costs in this year, so that's very, very helpful. And I also again want to point out that we have a very good relationship with the town, and financially they're supporting us, and we appreciate that because times are tough. And I think they deserve a shout out for working with us so well. And then finally, behind each one of these numbers, there are hundreds of other numbers. Jane and her team, she mentions here and there, have done a remarkable job. I've seen a transformation in our budgeting system over the past 3-4 years. And it's really come to fruition so that these numbers become actionable. They become informative, they become actionable. They also become dollars. When we report accurately, we get better returns. So all of that work that's being done by Jane and her team is very, very important and appreciated. And, we're going to continue to work at it. I will tell you, we are both very concerned about next year. I don't want to sort of put lipstick on the pig or whatever other horrible way I can describe it, but it is a very challenging budget season that's coming up. It's challenging for all schools in Massachusetts. You'll be hearing about it more and more. Special education costs are a part of it. Transportation costs are another part of it. But we are doing everything we can to be ready for it, and I'm confident that we are doing everything we can to be ready for it. So shout out to Jane and her team, as usual, for doing such a great job.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jean, from us. Any questions?
I have a question. It says up to 5 students being evaluated for placement, so.
Yeah. They could go out at any time.
Or they could come in?
No, they're currently in our schools, so at Phelps, mostly at Phelps at this point. Some behavioral students in our sub-separate programs whose behaviors are very, very challenging, to a point of perhaps even being unsafe. So we are working hard with these kids and their families, and some are being assessed currently, but we do have some that are very active that we're watching on a daily basis.
So then these.
That could swing $100,000
Right,
overnight.
Right.
Yeah, it could be.
That's why the picture.
As of today?
Yeah, it could be
27.
60,000 to 200,000
Right.
overnight, could just pop like that, and
That's why they don't sleep.
That
Yeah.
projection is based on students today we're transporting to out-of-district placements.
yeah.
Do you know how many, roughly?
32,
Okay.
which is lower than most of our
Yeah.
neighbors. We have a very low placement rate
We
of
keep 'em in.
out-of-district. We keep them in
kids in.
district.
We know the program, we did a review this morning of Bridges at the high school, a preliminary review. It's early, it's just December 1st, and it's only been running since August. But we did a sort of a cost analysis of how things are going and how the kids are doing, and, that's a huge investment. There are 4 full-time teachers, 2 full-time paraprofessionals. It's a huge investment, but there are 19 kids down there, 19 souls, that
Right,
that are
here.
that are ours.
Right.
And that program is working. I can tell you, it's working. It's not easy, it's not perfect, but it's working, and I think it'll get better. So we do a lot of things to be proud of in this town, and our sub-separate programs are part of it. It's tough to see a really young child struggle.
Right.
A 5-year-old, a 6-year-old struggle, and become very physical because they can't express themselves. But I'm convinced that we can do as good a job or better here in Rockland, and now that we have the facilities for it. But it's hard. It's hard work. Our teachers are working really hard. They're doing a great job.
And I misspoke, it's 23. The other communities have 34 that I was comparing myself to.
You're going backwards.
But she's not competitive.
Not at all.
But the numbers lady's talking her
No.
numbers backwards.
No.
I think that goes a long way when we say that our goal is to keep them here. We want them here. I think their families want them here. I think they actually want to be here. We sort of stand on our heads before we say, okay, we've done everything we can, but this isn't the best solution, and we need to come up with another solution. I know in my heart that that's what we do. So I appreciate everyone out there in the schools that are working to try to keep them all here.
I think one of the things that's been interesting this year as well is that having the one building at Phelps, having all of the sub-separates at one building.
Yeah, we're spread among 3. This was an unanticipated. We didn't see that coming. We thought, well, it's the same number of kids, same number of programs, just a different space, but they're all in the same building, so it feels different.
Yeah.
So they're adjusting to that, and they're
Right.
working at that.
Right, processing all of that.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're working very, very hard down there. And I'll tell you, when we do go to place a student out and it's a safety issue, we are prying that child away from those teachers. They do not want those kids to go.
Right,
They don't. And so I feel good about them, and they're doing really good work down there. So very
I'd
proud
like
of
to
them.
say that we're all fluid, right? We keep going, we try to zig and zag
Yeah.
and learn what's
Well,
the best solution, and if it's not that solution,
I'm
what's
su-
another solution?
I'm sure
you know?
Dr. Small will tell you the rate of change that a child can experience just physiologically, especially when they're that young. They can come back the next year and just whatever they were struggling with is now very different than it was the year before. So they can have a really bad month, And so we don't want to put a kid out when they're having a really bad month.
Right.
Because we have, the teachers, they love to tell you their stories, you know, so-and-so was really, and I remember, I've been there, somebody destroying a room one week, and, you know, the following year, they're the classroom leader, and that's what we're going for, right? So,
Right,
but it's hard work.
for sure.
It's hard, and I'd say we keep attributing a lot to COVID, but we forget about all of the resources that these young kids lost during COVID, the social emotional opportunities, but also the early intervention, the services that are meant to sort of help them so that by the time they get to school, they're at a point that they're learning. And so these kids, you have a whole cohort of kids that may have some challenges especially with communication, and they, you know, they're starting from zero, and now we're expecting them to learn kindergarten work when they can't even communicate, and that just, all that frustration leads to a lot of behavioral challenges.
Yeah.
So it's going to be years of making up for what was lost during COVID.
Yeah.
Sad, actually. Any other questions or thoughts on the budget? And we don't need to approve that because we already did. They were just sort of giving us a snapshot of it. So thank you for that. Okay, so fundraisers for approvals. Okay. We have 3. Bulldog Spirit Wear for the middle school pack from November to December. RHS, we have Student Government Council for Valentine's Day candygrams from January 29th to February 2nd of 2024. And then Student Government Council, do you want to build a snowman from January 8th to January 19th? Oh, wait a minute, we have another one. RHS Alumni Giving Back Fund. Alumni asked via social media to purchase apparel online from November 30th to May 15th.
4 motions to approve?
4 seconds.
All those in favor? That's a vote on that, even though it was hard for me to say. We've done that, so we'll go on to personnel information. Dr. Cron, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add
All
for
right.
personnel.
Any questions on that? No?
I did see that a Bridges para left.
We gained one, too.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, never mind.
All right. So we'll go back to you, Dr. Cron, with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just briefly, wanted to give you a little update on how things are going at the Comfort Inn. We currently have 16 students enrolled in the district through the program that we're working with the state. We are going tomorrow to evaluate 4 additional families. We're currently transporting 11 students. Most of these students are going to other districts from here, but they live here now. We share the responsibility for that transportation. And we are looking at, we're still waiting for some definites on how the supplemental budget and how that's going to work through the state, but we're on top of that. And overall, we're still not getting the answers that we want, which is who's in charge here and who is telling families to go where. And when you get to the top and ask that ultimate question, there are no answers. So we're a little nervous there because we don't know what's going on. The state has said that they've closed things down, but that doesn't mean that people will stop coming. That also doesn't mean that they won't close another site and then move people here. So we continue to work our connections and let them know what our resources are and hope for the best. But I'm very nervous about it, and we'll deal with it when it comes. And I know it's something that weighs heavily on Jane's mind as well. But we will keep plugging away at that. So that's one thing I wanted to update everyone on.
Sorry, these 4 families are new in the last week or 2?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So the stop didn't
The
stop? The
Didn't
gate opened
stop,
again?
I think, and I'm suspecting they may have been transferred but we'll know more tomorrow,
We're
so.
going down tomorrow, Nantown, and we'll be down tomorrow, 1 o'clock, to meet with the new families
Okay.
that have come. One positive note is we did get a Rockland family relocated here from Boston,
Oh, good.
which was wonderful.
Right.
And the 13 families who are living there long-term have been assured that they can remain as well.
Okay. And so, are we nervous? Like, how many rooms are in the Comfort Inn? How many?
100.
100.
100.
See, this is what goes through my brain. And then
Yeah.
are they all going to fill up, and then what do we do?
I
And we don't know
it's
any
been
of that.
filling my brain
Right.
since it started. yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we continue to let them know what our capacity is and let them know that we are not your typical district when it comes to servicing non-English speaking students. We have 350 students who we're working with currently in a relatively smallish district. Our EL services are pretty tapped.
Right.
So we will deal with it as it comes, but we're hoping that it doesn't.
We have posted for an additional EL teacher.
Okay.
The caseloads are,
Getting tight.
they were high before this.
Yeah, they were high,
They were
over
high-
50.
They were over
per
50
teacher.
before this
Per teacher,
began. So
yeah.
it was on the list to advertise for both EL and SPED prior to the Comfort Inn opening, but
And I just had a couple other things.
Sure,
if that's
sorry,
all right.
I cut into
No,
you.
no problem. I just wanted to give a shout out to the department heads and directors. You know, their reports and trying to get around and speak to them and see how things are going. The reports that we get to read, they're so thoughtfully prepared and so thorough, and it reminds me of the many outstanding departments that we have throughout the district. And in particular, I just want to highlight one. I think our art department is phenomenal. And, you know, I want to give a shout out to Mike Guyette in the elementary, Cheryl Thompson, our director, and our middle school art teacher, Colleen Haley, is developing quite an amazing art program at the middle school and has quite a gathering of kids joining the art club, which again, after school, they're coming and creating art, and they wrote a grant through the foundation, so there's going to be an art show down at the Phelps during their chorus concerts, and it's just nice to see all that work that's going on.
Right.
And, I mean, Cheryl Thompson and Kata Medeiros have been outstanding for many years, but they keep doing it. And when I talked to Cheryl the last time, she said, we really feel like we're almost back from COVID, because they too lose momentum. They lost momentum, not just the music department. So, but I wanted to give a shout out also to Tim Wells and Chris Howe and Dave Ballard for all that they do, the three of them that keep this district not only up and online every day, but they completely updated the Eston School over the summer and continue to do that, so that the technology that our kids are experiencing in pre-K and K is the highest level. So they just do such a great job, and we appreciate them very much. And I always love reading Freddie Damon's Dean's Report, just to see how many kids have gotten Saturday detention. And I used to always enjoy hearing Mr. Damon's voice on the loudspeaker in the morning, and followed by Mr. Graziano, who would say something no one understood, and it went on and on and on. So that's all I have. Oh, and I did have one final thing. Janet Tate and the Rockland Daycare, they also submit a report. And I just want to remind all of us that they are currently serving 82 families in this town with daycare, and 47 of them are teachers, police officers, or fire personnel. So shout out to Janet and her staff at Rockland Daycare for a great service that they provide. So I know I talk a lot about before and after school care with Marissa, but a shout out to Janet as well. So then that's all I have.
These are some of your thankful things. It's like
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's my Thanksgiving.
Dr. Cron's thankful
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Maybe that's a
No,
new
I-
addition to the school committee.
I appreciate them. They work so hard and, so I know you appreciate them as well.
We certainly do, we
Yeah.
certainly do. We are lucky to have them all. All right, so we'll move on to then our public service announcements. Hope, we'll start with you.
I don't have too much. I just want to mention that the coat drive we held on November 18th went very well. I want to say upwards of 100 coats.
Wow.
There was tons and tons of garbage bags of them. We haven't counted yet, but I would think around 100, which was very impressive. I didn't expect that. So first one, it's good turnout. And then in addition to that, Key Club is also hosting a book drive in the high school, so students can go up to the trees that we will set up next week in the cafeteria and take a paper ornament with a book title on it, go and buy the book, and then bring it back and we'll wrap it, and they get distributed to elementary families and anyone who had requested that they wanted a book. So
Oh,
that'll come.
great.
Yeah, next week.
And we can get in on that, too?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be reaching out. All right, that's all you have? I didn't want to cut you off. All right, we'll start with you to the left tonight, Dr. Small.
Just congratulations to the Lady Dog cheerleaders who brought home state championship yet again. So the legacy continues. So congratulations to those ladies.
Originally, I had none. I was trying to think of some thankful things, but I guess that we're back and December's almost upon us, so the creeping towards winter break. But hopefully, all students and teachers stay healthy as we go through that.
All right, thank you. Saracen?
I have nothing for tonight.
All right, I have nothing either. I feel like we sat here and we all kept on talking, so that's all I have to say. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, good night.